Hello, I want to talk to you today. I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to call it the anatomy of a coaching session for a really far off dream. That sounds like a long title, but first let us take a moment and appreciate this shirt. Go smudge yourself. Don't mean that directly to you. I just saw this in a magazine and I'm like, I got to have that. Okay, moving on. So one of the things I always talk about, especially in my new book, is focus and frequency. Words mean nothing if we don't have a thorough understanding of them and we don't understand how to embody them. So just saying focus and frequency, it's like, okay, white and blue, who cares? So I want to make sure you're clear on this. So focus is what you're paying attention to, whether it's externally, what you're looking at, or internally, what you're thinking in. So that's focus. Frequency is the way that you feel. And a lot of times what you focus on creates how you feel. If you're laying in your bed at night and you're worried about money, that's inward focus, but it's causing you to worry. So that's creating cortisol and adrenaline and stress in your body. So your frequency is going to be really low and really, cringy. Likewise, if you are focused externally and you, let's say, for example, you see a car accident, heaven forbid, you're looking at that and you're interpreting it, and that's going to cause your frequency to go really low, get really low and dense. So that's focus and frequency. We know for a fact that in order scientifically to manifest whatever it is you want to manifest, you have got to be focused on the outcome you want, and you've got to be embodying the feeling of already having it. Okay, focus and frequency. But I take a step back, and when I'm in a coaching capacity, I don't just leave it at focus and frequency. That would be letting my clients off the hook. And I'm not going to do that. That's not what they pay me for, which we'll get into in just a second. But I take it deeper and we do story and state, because what we now know is that sometimes your story causes your state, but now science is showing that your state sometimes knows before it picks up a story. And I'm not going to go really into that in this video, but let me say it this way. We used to think that in neuroscience, I'm not a neuroscientist, I just study it enough to make you think I am. But in neuroscience, it used to be thought that you see things or you think things and then you have a physical reaction, right? Your brain produces chemicals because of the thing you saw or the thing that you thought. Well, now we know that in some instances, probably about half of the time, your body picks up on something before your brain is even at the party. So I could be walking around and someone could be sneaking up beside me that means me harm, and my body could just tense up, even though I don't see anything yet. Then the story pops in, like, oh, you're not safe, this is scary, you're in danger. So just understand that science now shows that we have about 22 to 32 senses, not just our 5 senses. So those senses are picking things up, and we often are telling ourselves a story about what those senses pick up. So just know that it's not always what you think that causes how you feel. Sometimes it's how you feel that causes what you think. Crazy, right? With all that said, your focus is what you're looking at, thinking about, but your story is what you're telling yourself about what you're thinking and looking. Does that make sense? The difference in me looking at, let's say a long line at Target. I'm focused on the long line, and that alone can give me stress because I'm late for an appointment. No clue why I'm at Target, but let's just say I'm late for an appointment. So I'm looking at that long line and it's getting me stressed. When we add story and state instead, it might be something like this, and I'm still late. The story I tell myself when I look at that line: I'm never going to get through it. I'm going to be late for work. I'll probably get fired. Target's always too busy. They need a new clerk. You see? So focus is just the bare bones. And that's why I keep it kind of more public. It's just, this is my focus. Thoughts or experiences. But we want to go to the story. Why? Because your story is what's causing all of your challenges. All of your challenges that you have is your story. You are telling whatever it is you want in your life that you don't have, it's because you're telling a story about it. You are. I am. We all do. So what I want to take you through is coaching, and I'm not going to say the gentleman's name. It was a young man, probably maybe 30. He was barely 30. And he was having a great deal of stress and some health challenges, minor health challenges, because he's only 30. Not that that makes a difference, because they can be really disastrous at 30, but just minor, like little aches and pains and, digestive issues, whatnot. So we start talking, ran a scan on him, tapped into his energy field, intuitively. And I automatically knew that he was not living his highest value. He was worked in a service department at a car dealership. So he made good money, no problem there. But his highest value, what he always wanted to be, was an actor. And listen, I have a daughter who left home at 18 to be an actress in Hollywood and then stand-up comedian. And I am not wishing that on any parent, especially at age 18. But what we have to do is we have to put our stories about the thing aside. Because are there other ways that if this young man's purpose on life had to do with acting, are there other ways besides going down and getting gobbled up by Hollywood? Could he do local theater? Could he, this particular person had taken a lot of acting classes. Could he teach community theater? Could he teach acting in, junior high? Yeah. Could he go for commercials? Yeah. Could he take acting classes? Yeah. And so it took him a while to understand. So I'm going to share the process with you. So if you have a vision or a dream that seems really outlandish, I'm going to help you bring this back down to earth. First of all, I don't think that there's any dream that's too big if you really feel it in your heart. Now, if you're 75 years old and you've always wanted to climb Mount Everest and you come to me for a coaching session and a scan, I might not be able to help you. Unless you are in pristine condition, very strong mental focus and emotional management, and you have already hiked great distances and you have the physical agility. And if you do, and you want to be the oldest person that's ever made it to Mount Everest, I'm your coach. I'll do it. But in most cases, that's not going to be practical. And I don't like the word practical. It really bugs me because I think that we are living in a world full of so much practicality that it's strangling us. So let's go from step one to where he left off at. So he's working in a service department at an auto dealership. I discover through question, answer, intuition, and his scan that his highest value is acting. So we looked at what that looked like, and it turned out that he didn't really want to leave his job because he had a good position with opportunity for promotion. He didn't want to leave it, but I told him, if you don't find a way to incorporate acting, whatever that looks like to you, into your life, your soul is basically saying, let me out, I can't stand it here, I came here to act. And it's doing that through the only mechanism it has, which is your body. It's like, I'm trying to communicate with you and you just keep ignoring me. And so this bump pops up, that tumor pops up, whatever it is. Make sense? So he was open to it. And so we came up with a plan, and I explained to him story and state. The first thing we have to do is understand that our state of being, how we feel. Are we full of joy and gratitude? or are we full of resentment and regret? It is everything. People always say thoughts are things. No, feelings are things. And while I mostly work with women, I will tell you, this applies to men too, most of us by the time we are 30 are living from the neck up. We're not in touch or in tune with our feelings because to keep ourselves safe, we numb, or we overstimulate, or we understimulate, and we don't really know how we're feeling. We binge watch the latest Netflix series and we don't know what we're feeling. So how can you manifest a really big dream when I'm telling you you have to feel excited and grateful about it, and I'm also telling you you're not even feeling your feelings? Do you get the conundrum? So I explained to him, because he was kind of dead from the body down at age 30. To me, that's so sad, but I get it. And so we began exploring, that if I'm doing, one session or a short session coaching, as opposed to I get you for 3 months, which I love to get my hands on you for 3 months, 6 months. I have clients that I work with for 2 years. Point being that the first thing that we had to do, because I only had this short session to work with him, is I explained state to him, and I had to help him figure out a way to get back in touch with his desires and his loves and his passions. And that took a little bit of time, because he lifted weights at the gym and he went running, but he wasn't in touch with his body. So that's your first step, in touch with your body. From there, once you are at a grounded, centered, I'm in my body right now, when you're there, now we can start getting excited. Now we can start experimenting with, what does it feel like to live a life that includes acting? And you can start to get a spark, right? But that's state. The other half of it is story. And the reason he was having a hard time getting excited about it is because the story he had always told himself, that I'm sure he heard from all around, is you can't be an actor. Nobody's an actor. Acting doesn't pay. Actors are waiters. All the things. So we had to change the story, because the story and the state go together. So we talked about the fact that just because you want to be an actor doesn't mean that you have to relocate to New York or to California, right? He didn't live in California. And so we came up with a handful of things that he could do that would satiate the acting bug and give his soul the freedom that it wanted. And I'm telling you, miracles happen. If you're stepping in the path to let your soul express itself, shiz is going to happen, right? I mean, shiz is going to happen. So, for example, one of the things we came up with was community theater, teaching community theater. I think I said that. Teaching youth about acting, doing an acting camp. That was one he came up with. So when he was thinking about those things, I said, and how does it make you feel in your body? Because at first he couldn't get anything. And then he's like, yeah, that feels good. So it's not unusual. It would not be unusual. And I've had this happen exactly with someone in acting, by the way, that he starts doing this, puts together a summer camp, acting camp, for like 5 or 10-year-olds or whatever. It wouldn't be unusual for him a week, a month, 3 months later to run into someone in line at Starbucks who's shooting a new movie in his town and heard him over talking about his camp and says, here's my card, call me. You see, what we do is we shortchange the universe. We have a story that I can never be an actor. This couldn't happen for me. I couldn't have that dream. And then we put it off. But if I can get someone to understand they attract with their state and their story predicts their state and vice versa, we can work on the story being changed. But at the same time, we are working on the manifestation. So he didn't know anything about, well, not really, about manifestation. So I said, look, it's like this. You're in the third dimension right now. You're touching things, you're feeling things, you're sensing, you're, whatever. But if you can go with your eyes closed in a relaxed brainwave and use your imagination, that's your right hemisphere. You don't have to know that, but that's what you're doing. And you can imagine this acting camp, or you playing the lead role in something, or you being on the stage of a community theater, and you can see it clearly. And you can get excited with expectation and enthusiasm and gratitude about that vision being true. You have, for all intents and purposes, just created that vision, that ideal outcome in the quantum field, and it has been pressed upon your subconscious mind, which in turn becomes embedded in your nervous system. Boom, mic drop. That's exactly what happens, because your subconscious mind is your body. Okay, so, and he seemed to really get this. So when we do that, that's the work. That's the quantum work right there. But we can't just live on our sofa envisioning and feeling gratitude. You got to show the universe you mean business. So I said, tell me 3 things you can do this week. And keep in mind, I don't even think we're going to coach anymore. I don't know. But I said, tell me 3 things you can do this week, and just text me when you've done them. And don't get mad if no opportunity opens up, or no one calls you, or you don't meet anyone in line at Starbucks. Do it for the love of it. Right? You're doing it for the love of it. You want to be in acting. So you calling and seeing about doing a summer acting camp for the local park district should be fun. You taking an acting class or reading a new acting book should be fun. Going to see movies and, getting together and doing a film critique group should be fun. Find the things that are fun, that are related to your value, that you love, and start doing them. And you are giving the universe a sign, hey, I'm serious. I hear you, soul. Get it? So it's all those parts together. It's understanding your state is what attracts what you want. And the story is what you're telling yourself about what you want. And most of the time, it's that you can't have it for whatever reason. And then you taking action toward whatever it is you want. So see, in his mind, he'd have to move to LA, California, to be an actor. And once he understood that he could expose himself to acting in so many different ways, he was like, whoa. Didn't even think of that. And he doesn't have to give up his high-paying career. There's all sorts of things he can do. In fact, one of them was his dealership could sponsor local community theater. How cool would that be? Be really involved in it. And you think that wouldn't immediately or almost immediately lead to him playing a bigger role in community theater? Of course it would. This is how we do it. We start with our vision in our mind. What does our soul want us to do? How am I going to express whatever I was put on this planet for? What feels good to me? Our body is our barometer. And then we create the vision. We hold it in our heart and our head clearly, repetitively, till we conjure up the feeling that it's already happened, because it has. And then we take outward action toward it. And then that will turn on the floodgates. But you can't get mad that it's not here yet. And you can't say, well, where is it? I've been doing this work for a week. You don't have to worry about the how. For the love of it. You're doing the thing for the love of it. And when you do it for the love of it will come back at you. Okay, so hopefully you found this helpful. I'm going to go smudge myself, and I hope you have a beautiful day. We'll talk to you next time.